Mere Conservatism.
David Perry and I'm Cleve Walker, and this is Mere Conservatism. David, you have taught me to go ahead and jump right in because that's what you do. Mm-hmm. And so I'm jumping right in here. You mentioned something about replacement theory.
Well, the thing that has happened over the last week since we had this podcast last, we have heard a lot about the Great Replacement theory. Mm-hmm. There was a horrific attack,
of course,
in Buffalo. Yeah. And it was really ugly, really bad.
Terrible.
The narrative that has immediately come out of this mass shooting, oddly enough, Cleve, is not about guns. Okay. See, the left, they're going to politicize this thing right away, and their chosen tactic right now has not been about gun control. Their chosen tactic right now is on racism and white supremacy.
Right. Now, he did bring up gun control, but it wasn't the main.
Yeah, well, the shooter did. The shooter said, apparently in his manifesto, that he did it partially because he wanted to cause some gun control to come into place. But he was a white supremacist. He was a racist. He actually targeted black people.
Right.
Obviously, a totally depraved individual, and committed cold-blooded murder of these people.
But he was not a conservative, by the way. He wasn't.
Oh, of course not. Well, yeah, and that's so this is what the media has done. They have decided to conflate and any discussion from people about immigration is now what they call is the same thing as the Great Replacement theory, which this guy, the shooter, apparently subscribed to. Yeah. This is the theory that it actually has a actual definition. It's a real thing. Mm-hmm. It's a Jewish conspiracy to dilute a white population with other races. So they want to basically dilute a pure white race with other races, intermarried or increasing population of non-whites and stuff like that. And so now any discussion of immigration specifically is going to be considered Great Replacement theory. Yeah. Now, you and I, we've talked about immigration quite a bit on this podcast. A lot of conservative commentators talk about it quite a bit. Did you know that when we discuss the issue at the border, the porous border, that we're actually engaging and promoting a Nazi racist theory? Did you know? Because the media is doing this now. They think that
it's a new tact. I agree. They've latched on to something else because the other is not quite living up to what they would hope it to. The gun control by itself. And
that may come later. That may come later. They obviously feel like the racist thing is gonna. That's the Trump. That's in the hierarchy. That's over the rest of
because of the elections coming up. That's something they can immediately tag on to Republicans, and so they're doing it too. And you're right. And they're hoping that will gin up some energy in their minority base, which, by the way, has been lower. So you're right. They needed something.
Well, and the truth is that discussion about immigration policy and how that affects the electorate and how that affects elections going forward, that's normal political talk.
Yeah.
Okay. That's not Great Replacement theory. No. It's not the same thing. You and I are very concerned about immigration. We're very concerned about open borders for many, many reasons. And you and I have discussed many times that the Democrats want to give amnesty and maybe even voting rights to a lot of the people that they're letting pour across the border because they're hoping that these people will vote Democrat.
Right.
And so you and I are, when we talk about it, by the way, we're most concerned about them diluting the voting pool to advantage Democrats. We're not worried about the color of skin of the people in our country.
It goes even further back than that for me. I just don't believe our nation or any nation should have open borders, okay?
Yeah, of course
so
not.
It's against the very principle of what a sovereign nation should be about. So this issue is hurting them, as you well know. I mean, the polls show that Biden is very low in approval rating for the border, the way he's handling the border. But they figure with this,
they could shut down all the discussion of that if they're successful, and if they can handle it appropriately. They think that they can shut down all discussion of the border by labeling it racist Nazi replacement theory.
And that is what they're shooting for. And I believe they're also shooting for this. And this sounds so cynical that years ago I probably wouldn't have said this, but I think this is part of it. They need to gin up not only voters, but they need to gin up more mobs, more riots, anything that would cause a number one, it would put a fear into our side. Basically, they want to intimidate by insinuating, "Hey, this is going to really be a rough summer if you guys don't lay off this." And then the other thing, of course, they just think that, I hate to say it, but any crisis will favor them, because as long as they have the reins of power during a crisis, during a genuine crisis, then they can do stuff they cannot do under more normal circumstances. And so
that's right.
I hate to
That's
sound
what they did during the last election. They took advantage of the crisis of COVID.
You got it.
They changed a lot of election rules, and they did a lot of things to give themselves advantage, and they won the election because of it.
This tactic, and remember it, folks, again, this replacement theory thing that they're trying to tag our side with, for them, it's the only way they can hope to stem the tide of the immigration issue and the southern border issue.
And I can't remember who it was, but I even heard a liberal commentator say to somebody, "Hey, look, we're as Democrats, we're not going to win on the economy. We got to push this racism thing."
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
basically what he said. We're not going to win on that. The economy isn't going to win us votes. We have to push this racist replacement theory thing to try to paint the other side as racist.
And so right now, it's all they got. That's a really good point. Well, and I like this next one, this next story. This is fun, because every time I talk about something like what you're talking about, it just leaves a sour taste, bitter taste in my mouth. This makes me smile. In a recent interview with the All In podcast, Elon Musk said the Biden White House doesn't seem to get a whole lot done. Okay. And he said that the Trump administration, Musk said, were effective at getting things done. So a White House spokesperson is now taking shots at Musk, saying he's against unions, and therefore he would say anything for a president, against a president who's the most pro-union president we've ever had since Obama. And but here's what Musk went on to say, and I want to get your reaction to this. He said in the same interview, "The real president is whoever controls the teleprompter." He said that's the real president.
Good line.
Adding that if somebody were to accidentally lean on the teleprompter, Biden would read whatever showed up on the screen. Now
that might explain some of the stuff that he says sometimes.
Well,
maybe typos.
He did do that before. So my point is, but this is now the richest man in the world, who, by the way, has also said he would be voting Republican. I don't know if you heard that.
He said for the first time ever that he was going to vote Republican, which is, it's one guy, and I'm not really that concerned about who rich people vote for per se. But I do think it's telling on some level that somebody who has never voted Republican in their life is saying now they're going to do it.
That's my point. This is not somebody who's religious. This is not somebody who's a typical profile of the people that our side normally draws. This is a guy who is not beholden to anybody for any reason, basically saying, "I've looked at the two sides, and one of them is screwy, and one is Biden." Mm-hmm. And it just so happens, though, he has enough money so that what he does with that money could make a difference.
Well, that's true. He didn't say he was going to be donating to campaigns and stuff, but he may.
You never can tell.
He may do that. Mm. It's interesting because what he said was that he always voted for the Democrats because he felt like they were the nice party.
Yeah, they seem to be
which
nice.
is interesting. I think that there's probably a lot of people that vote based on that. They just vote based on their feeling. Mm-hmm. They may not know deep down policies and things like that, but they vote based on their perception of the kindness, or I like these people and I don't like these people.
Right.
That's normal, which goes to show you how important the media and the way that they paint candidates is. It's a very important thing, because you got somebody like Elon Musk who has been voting for Democrats his whole life because he thinks they're nice people, mm-hmm. and obviously that is colored by the media coverage that these people get.
And I think Elon has also even addressed that. He thinks the media, and here's the thing, I actually believe that, and you said this yourself earlier, more and more people, again, are rejecting what they see in real life, the cancel culture, the weirdness of the transgender push, more what I call just independents, people who didn't have a dog on either side, are saying yuck to the Biden side, not because they have any conservative or constitutional principles, but like Musk are saying, these guys are nuts. Okay. And they're also ineffective nuts.
I think that's absolutely right. I mean, they can look at the two sides and see, just kind of like Musk has said that he did, going based on his feelings. You do have one side who seems to riot and picket and yell at people and make really strange videos on TikTok where they look crazy, talking about how they like to come out to their kindergartners about their personal lives and different things. It's just strange.
Yeah. And it's striking people that way. And the media, they're trying their best, but even the media now is, the left, the liberal media, even they now are struggling in trying to cover for this guy. So they're taking up the anti-racist thing. That's the only thing they have left now. But even that is going to be a turnoff for more people who are simply tired. They are. I talk to them, not conservative. They say, I'm just tired of everything being about race. So I'm just tired of it, and that's all they have. So even that, I believe, is going to backfire on them.
Well, there's another thing that Elon Musk said a few days ago about the Democrats and about Joe Biden specifically that I thought was interesting too, where he said that Biden's problem was that he thought he was elected to make big changes when really everybody just wanted less drama. In other words, what he was saying was people that didn't vote for Donald Trump did so because they just wanted it to be less crazy. Yeah. Everything was always so crazy and wild, and you never knew what was going to happen.
Less partisan.
And Trump fueled a lot of that, but the media caused a lot of that. A lot of that was because of the media coverage of him. So people were tired of that, and they didn't want that, so they voted for Biden. And Biden has gone off the rails because he is completely controlled by the left, and they are pushing very radically. And so people are not getting really what they wanted.
Not at all. And that's a great point because, I talked to so many people who voted for Biden because they thought, well, I don't really like him, but normalcy will come back.
Yeah.
Things will be normal. It might be, a little politicky here and there, but at least it's going to be normal. They had no idea how radical and how in the pocket of the radicals he was.
Trump is a lightning rod. A lot of stuff happens around him. Let's just let him leave. Let's get rid of him, and maybe things will calm down. And that hasn't happened. And here's another thing they need to realize, and we all need to realize this. The hubbub around the president is going to happen if it's a Republican president. The media is going to do what they did to Donald Trump to anybody who is right of Hillary Clinton. Okay?
Okay.
They're going to do the same thing to that person. And so
that's a good point.
Maybe we could have a candidate that wouldn't be as personally bombastic as Donald Trump, but there would still be a lot of drama because the media creates it.
They're already shown that they're going after Ron DeSantis for that reason. There have even been some hit pieces being done on people who work in his office and work for him. So that I agree with you. As a matter of fact, if Ron DeSantis were the nominee, they would be worse and more. There'd be more vitriol and hatred against him than Trump.
I think you're right because the stakes are continually raised. I mean, they're not going back to being normal. They're even the George W. Bush days. They're not going back to that. It's not going to happen. It's going to get worse and worse as we move forward.
As a matter of fact, David, I think they have decided, and they could be right about this, by the way. I think the Democrats have decided if we lose now, at the height of our ability to, quote unquote, transform America, we don't get another chance. So,
I can see it being quite a long time before the Democrats recover.
Yeah.
If they do lose, if the country is leaning the way I feel like the country is probably leaning, and they lose bad in the midterms, and then they lose the presidency in 2024, I don't know that either of those things are going to happen. But if it does, and there's let's say a Reagan-esque type win, meaning Reagan won did he win 40 states the first time he ran?
It was a huge landslide.
And then he only lost 2 states the second time he ran. It was unbelievable. Yeah. So if there's a Reagan-esque landslide like that, and by the way, that was coming off of Jimmy Carter. So there are some similarities. If a Republican wins like that, it could be a while before the Democrats can recover because you see what they're doing right now. They're not changing their ways. No. They are doubling down.
And so it makes it all the more important in their mind to keep that border open, because if they're out of office, at least they will have opened up a hole that's going to take a while to close. And in the meantime, you got several million possible constituents here who would not have been here otherwise. So at some point in the future, they're thinking we'll be able to gain. So that's one reason why they'll never do anything about that border. As long as they are in power, it's not going to happen. And that's their only hope to recoup, because unless they do something really radical, and David, I'm getting to the point, I mean, I hear conspiracies all the time, and I really am kind of I'm an anti-conspiracy person. I don't think I need to hear another conspiracy because I think things are bad enough. But I no longer can put anything past these guys. I just, you know what I'm saying? I got to that point. I've literally got to that point that they've shown to me they will do just about anything.
They'll do a lot of things that you would think that never would see the light of day, things that they would never do, things that would be written about in a Tom Clancy novel but would never make it into real life. And this stuff has made it into real life, and it's not good.
It's terrible. And again, our hope is that for the first time, a lot of folks are seeing this in real time, in real life, what happens when progressives get their hands on the wheels of power. Another thing, though, that's encouraging, and I really love this because you know about all the woke corporations and Disney and whatnot, there's starting to be some blowback against them. I mean, Disney has already got its comeuppance, courtesy of Ron DeSantis and the people of Florida. But Netflix, my goodness.
Netflix is bleeding.
They went all woke a while back. They started hiring these woke producers, including, by the way, President Obama and his wife. They were our producers on shows on Netflix. And so they went all in on the progressives. And now the company is laying off nearly 2% of its staff. Okay. The streaming platform said those were creative decisions and not related to the slower quarter of revenue growth.
Oh, really?
That's all. Because, by the way, they lost more than 200,000 subscribers.
Yikes.
So my point is, I used to give up on the idea that we could impact these giant corporations and everything like this, but I'm saying now, no. There's some blowback finally from the populace, from these giant corporations that seem to be beyond our grasp.
Yeah, that's good. Netflix also came out and said that they were not going to censor their material for the sake of the wokes, and they said that if you can't work with the content that we have, Netflix may not be the place for you.
Now, they weren't talking like that before.
They're responding appropriately to the people that work there.
Right.
I mean, I think that's the absolute right thing to do when you own a company like that. As you say, this is what we're going to do. You may differ in opinion with some of the stuff that's on here. You may not like all of it, but we're going to be very eclectic with what we offer. And if you have a problem with that, then there's the door.
Here's the message that sends, and this is why this is so important, because other giant companies and woke corporations are, I think, finally hearing this, is that, listen, you can believe all you want to, but if you weigh in on one side or the other of politics, you're going to pay a price. And they always weigh in, of course, on the left side.
Well,
and they're backing away from it.
Look, Cleve, yeah, and that's with the company. When it comes to their dealing with their woke employees, I mean, they're saying basically, you believe whatever you want to believe. You that's fine.
Right.
You cannot demand of us, your employer, that we mirror your priorities.
Yeah.
You work here. This is not your company. You work here, and we appreciate you and we respect you, but no, we're not going to bend to your will. And that's really what has happened in these companies, is that a marked minority of people who work there are they see themselves as activists, and so they do what they can to collectively bend their company's will to their worldview.
And it was working for them.
And it was working because companies didn't want to be on the wrong side. They didn't want to look bad or whatever. And I think that's changing a little bit. I think some companies are realizing we don't have to do this. And also, by the way, it's not in our interest to do it.
You know what else companies, I believe, are realizing, going back to the Biden situation, the low percentage and the possible bloodbath that's coming, and that's that word again, the possible defeat, okay, that's coming their way in the elections. The businesses now know they may not be on the right side of the party in power. See, everything they've done to me has been to be to inoculate themselves from any attack by the Biden administration, because they're the party in power and look like they were going to be in power for a while. Now they're saying we could find ourselves with a DeSantis or Trump or somebody of that ilk in there, and all of our posture, all of our business models and decisions based upon getting the woke audience will be for no reason whatsoever.
Well, and they're seeing that, hey, if we try to flex our muscle politically and push the country in a direction politically, Ron DeSantis may not put up with that. I mean, he may not put up with a company taking political action. You know, these companies, Cleve, they actually limit our freedom when they do stuff like this.
Definitely.
And they're doing it at the bidding of, right now, they're doing it at the bidding of a left administration, a left government. They could do it under a Republican government too, but they would still be doing it at the whims of this certain political bent. And Cleve, that limits our freedom. And what DeSantis is doing in Florida and what he's seeing in Florida is that he protects the freedom of the people in Florida when he uses the law to not allow corporations like Disney to run roughshod over what the people want.
And that's it.
It's not right for them to dictate policy in public education in Florida that goes against the will of the people in Florida. One company, just because they're big and they have a lot of money and influence and stuff like that, it's not okay for them to do that. And Ron DeSantis isn't putting up with it anymore. A lot of Republicans would be like, hands off the industry. We're Republicans, so we're not supposed to do anything against businesses. We just kind of let businesses operate as how they want to. But what they're seeing is that they're actually allowing businesses to limit our freedom and take away our freedom. That's not okay. And we elect these people to protect our freedom. That's their main job.
Yep.
So they're doing it.
I think corporations are finally going to get that message, and that makes a big difference as well. Another feel-good story, and David, this is going to sound awful because it involves somebody dying, but it is a feel-good story.
Wow, Cleve. That is morbid.
On another level.
You hate this person?
I'm bringing this out.
What a feel-good story. This person died.
Well, I'm bringing this out in wake of what happened in Buffalo, okay? This is important. An Indiana homeowner fatally shot 2 armed home intruders over this past weekend, and he held another 2 at gunpoint until the police arrived on the scene. Now, this is DeKalb County Sheriff's Department and the Auburn Police Department arrived at that home. This is in Indiana, by the way. And it was like 6 a.m. and found 2 deceased people and another pair being held at gunpoint by the homeowner. The Indiana State Police said the unidentified homeowner was reportedly confronted by 4 armed individuals.
Yikes.
He responded to the incident by pulling out his gun and firing. Okay, so he ends up killing 2, and the other 2 apparently dropped their weapons.
Yeah.
So I bring that up because you won't hear that story by the mainstream media, who said guns kill. Yes, guns can kill if they're used for killing, and sometimes they're used for killing in a right way. And so this guy, if he doesn't have his weapon, 4 armed intruders, he's gone.
He's certainly robbed, and he may be dead.
He's probably dead. He's probably gone. So I guess I bring that up again because I told you before, I'm collecting stories like that. I got a binder full. Sounds like Mitt Romney. I got a binder full of stories that show responsible gun owners using guns for what they're meant for. Now, they're meant for other stuff too. Hunting is definitely in there, but also for the defense of my family. Because the police can't be everywhere. Even if we weren't defunding them, they can't be everywhere. Mm-hmm. And so ultimately, I love stories that show somebody saying, my defense for me and my family primarily lies with me.
Yep.
And guns properly used do that.
Yes. And in light of the Buffalo shooting, this part of the story was there's a hero ex-police officer there that actually engaged the shooter, I believe, at the door.
He did.
And shot him. And the shooter was wearing body armor.
Yeah.
And so the body armor defeated the rounds, and this security guard ended up being killed. That guy's a hero. He fought back, and that's good. We need more people to be armed and ready to fight back in situations like that. The body armor would have failed eventually. Somebody would have hit him somewhere, not covered by body armor.
Well, the shooter made it a point, by the way, of saying he was deliberately going to places where he knew there would not be many people as far as having any weapons was concerned.
That's right.
Soft targets is what they look for. So, again, Second Amendment, another sign of wisdom by the founders, and when used lawfully, it would actually help stem the tide of what we're seeing happen right now. So to me, that's what I mean when I say it's a feel-good story, okay? I'm sorry that somebody died in that. I really am, okay?
Shouldn't have tried to rob somebody.
Shouldn't try to rob them. And this gun owner, the homeowner, he did the right thing, because once he took out 2 of them and the others gave up, he didn't shoot he could have shot them down. He could have gone ahead and finished them off. So, but he was not a bloodthirsty guy. He was just defending his home, life, and property. So, to me, stories like that will never make the mainstream media. Fox reports on stories like that, and thank God for that, and maybe a few others. But I bring it up to say, ultimately, David, I'm just getting to understand our responsibility at some point is to stand up for our nations, for our churches, for our families, for our rights, and now's the time to do it. These people will take everything if we let them. And that's a fact.
And my position is not one more inch.
I agree. I like that.
No more compromise.
That should be a T-shirt. Not one more inch.
Yep. No more. For me, I feel like we've compromised enough. They keep coming.
Yeah.
And so it's time to not just stand your ground, but actually push back.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I like to see about some, not all, but some Republican politicians, is that they're actually pushing back. That's why I like Ron DeSantis so much, because he is not just standing firm; he's actually pushing in the other direction.
Thank you. He's on the offense, and at the very least, it's time never to be silent again. David, folks can hear us express our opinions again.
Yeah, check it out on Facebook. Search for Mere Conservatism. Please comment and let us know what you think. Engage with us. We want to talk to you. So that's on Facebook. You can find us on YouTube as well, MereCon Media, or on Apple Podcasts.
That's David Perry. I'm Cleve Walker. And remember, it's not over with yet. Keep the faith. We'll see you next time.